video. So today I basically just want to sum up my year of cycling for 2017 and also just share some goals that I've set for myself for 2018. Just because, like, from past experience, I found that when I share my goals with people, it helps hold me accountable to them. And the reason I want to start off by reflecting on the past year is just because 2017 was a pretty big year for me, and it kind of ties in with a lot of the goals that I've set myself for the new year. So as I mentioned, 2017 was a huge year for me, and yeah, we started off the year in usual fashion with the Tour Down Under, which is always a massive week. And the week before Tour Down Under, all of the pros come to Adelaide and they start training and just like acclimatizing to the conditions and the weather and all that kind of stuff. And on one of the days, Anthony and I were hanging outside a tour village just waiting for a pro team to roll out, and just as our luck would have it, Team Bora and Peter Sagan just happened to roll out. So this footage is from Snapchat, so I apologize if the quality isn't great. I managed to keep up for about 90 kilometers before I got dropped, and some parts of the ride were pretty tough for me, especially going uphill. I mean, to put it in perspective, it was a pretty easy training ride for them, but just from me hanging on as much as I could, I was getting like QOMs and top 10s on Strava. So it was pretty intense for me in some parts, but I was just stoked that I got to ride with the world champion. And of course, Tour Down Under week was amazing as usual. I ended up doing over 700 kilometers in that week alone, and it was just so much fun hanging out with friends and going to vegan restaurants and going to all the stages, watching the race, and just doing a lot of epic rides. It's always a lot of fun. So then in February, I decided I wanted to ride from Melbourne to Adelaide. So we got a small group of friends together and we did it at a pretty comfortable pace. We did it in 6 days, which I felt was just a good pace. It wasn't too intense and it was manageable, especially because it was like my first time touring as well. And yeah, it was a lot of fun, and I felt like I learnt a lot from that experience. I ended up doing over 1,000 kilometers in 1 week, which is the most I've done in 1 week. And unfortunately it did cause some issues with my knee, just because I've got some past knee injuries that sometimes get irritated. I think just because like my body wasn't used to doing such a large amount of volume in that 1 week, it really just caused those injuries to resurface. And that kind of indicated to me that perhaps like touring and ultra long endurance rides probably isn't the best thing for my body, which is why for the rest of the year I started to focus a little bit more on quality over quantity. So I had a lot of time off after that tour just because of that reoccurring knee injury, and it probably wasn't maybe like a month or two until I started training properly again. So in March we had the Indian Pacific Wheel Race in Australia, and the riders would pass through Adelaide on their way to Sydney. I was lucky enough to ride for a bit with Sarah Hammond as she was passing through Adelaide, and also Mark Ferguson. Most of you would know him as Cycling Maven. So that was a pretty cool experience, just being a dot watcher and just watching the riders pass through my home city. And yeah, I'm looking forward to watching it all unfold again this year, and hopefully everyone who's racing in it stays safe. All right, April, we're up to April. So in April, we went to Queenstown for a cycling trip on the long Easter weekend. And yeah, it was pretty amazing. We did some epic rides over there. Wish we could have stayed longer, but unfortunately we had to go back home. And yeah, it was definitely one of the most beautiful places I've been to for cycling, and there were just so many different hills and loops you could do, lots of epic climbs. We got some really amazing drone footage while we were over there, so if you haven't already, I do recommend checking out that video. And if you haven't been to Queenstown before, I highly recommend going, as it's a pretty awesome place for cycling. After we got back from New Zealand, I started to get back into some consistent training, and this is where my fitness really increased quite quickly in a short amount of time. Within a month, I was beating my personal best up a lot of the local climbs here in Adelaide and getting into a lot of the top 10s for segments on Strava. So yeah, at this point I was feeling pretty good. So then we headed over to Chiang Mai in Thailand for a couple of weeks. Unfortunately, I got a bit of a stomach bug while I was over there. It was mostly just in the mornings I would wake up with really bad nausea and I would just feel really weak. I think I ended up losing like 4 kilos in 1 week just because everything I ate would just pass straight through me. So I really was not feeling very good at all. I really wanted to do a time trial up Doi Suthep because I had set myself a goal early in the year that I wanted to do at least a sub 40. On my last day in Chiang Mai, I decided just to give it a crack anyway because I really had nothing to lose. Well, actually, I kind of did risk getting a lot sicker than what I was. But at that point, I was probably feeling like 90% better, like I had got a little bit better. So yeah, I did a time trial on my last day in Chiang Mai. I ended up cracking sub 40, even though I was only doing like tempo wattage. So I was pretty happy with that, but at the same time I was a little bit disappointed that I didn't give it an effort where I was in form and feeling good, because I know I could have got a lot better time than that. I really wish we could have stayed longer. You really need like at least a month minimum to give all the climbs a decent crack and just like getting into good form and acclimatizing to the weather over there. But I'm still really grateful that we were able to get time off from work to go there for a couple of weeks and do a bit of cycling and get away from the winter cold. And yeah, it was still a good time. When we got back from Thailand, I had a little bit of time off the bike just to get my immune system strong again. And I probably had a good solid week of rest before I started doing any training, and even then I kind of just gradually built it up and started with some light training. So then about a month later I started doing Zwift Academy, which is basically like this training program on Zwift, and pro teams can use it to scout for talent. Zwift Academy was a lot of fun. There was like a good community of riders doing it. There was lots of group training rides and also Zwift races, and the program itself was actually quite intense. Zwift Academy really helped me stay consistent throughout winter, and it just helped like keep me accountable with my training. During this time I increased my fitness quite substantially. Like I came out of winter fitter than I came into it. So I was really happy with that, and at my peak I managed to hold 222 watts for 50 minutes during a Zwift race, which is for me about 3.9 watts per kilo. So for me that was like a personal best in terms of power. I also forgot to mention that before I did Zwift Academy, I did the Adelaide Dirty Dozen and I managed to get the QOM on the entire course. But yeah, I talk about that in another video, so if you guys are interested you can check that out. Unfortunately, just after finishing Zwift Academy, I got really sick, probably the sickest I've been in years. And stupid me, I only took a week off from the bike thinking I'd be okay. I started training again, made myself even sicker. So it was really a good lesson for me to listen to my body a bit more and rest when it needs rest. Not necessarily just with training on the bike, but even just with like going to work, because my work, like, it's quite physical. I'm standing on my feet for like 8 to 9 hours a day, and there were like so many days where I went to work where I was still sick as a dog, and I really should have just stayed at home and rested. And I feel like if I had, I would have probably not got as bad as what I did and recovered a lot quicker. But yeah, I think I just had that mindset of, you know, don't be soft, you can work through it, you can train through it, like that kind of attitude, and it really worked against me in this situation. So it was definitely a lesson for me. And yeah, this had such a huge blow to my fitness. Like, even at this point, I'm probably only at 80 to 90% of where I was before I got sick. I've only just been doing some consistent training for just over a month now, so since early December. And yeah, hoping I can keep it consistent throughout summer and keep my immune system in check so that I can get my fitness back to where it was previously. Last year, I set myself a goal to do a sub 16 time trial up Norton Summit. Unfortunately, I didn't achieve that goal. On the last weekend of 2017, I decided to give it a crack anyway, even though I wasn't feeling that great. But I just wanted to have no regrets for not at least trying. And I really surprised myself. I ended up doing a 16:13, even though I felt like crap. And it wasn't too far off my goal. I only held 3.8 watts per kilo for 16 minutes, whereas previously, a couple of months ago, I was holding 3.9 watts per kilo for 50 minutes. So I know if I had done a time trial back then when I was in peak form before I got really sick, I could have done a sub 16 quite easily. So it's just good to know that at one stage last year, I did have the fitness to achieve that time, and that's really helped me to set some appropriate goals for 2018. So I've set myself quite a few goals in terms of cycling and fitness for this year, and I've tried to focus on setting myself a variety of goals. So not just time trial based goals, but also power based, and even just things like being able to complete some tough local rides that happen throughout the year here in Adelaide. So my first goal is a power-based goal, and that is to increase my functional threshold power to 4 watts per kilo. When I was in peak form last year, I did a functional threshold test, and my estimated FTP was 218 watts, or 3.8 watts per kilo. So I would really like to surpass that this year and get it up to at least a minimum of 4 watts per kilo. My next goal is time-based, and that is to complete a sub 15-minute time trial at Norton Summit. I already know I was capable of doing a sub 16 when I was in peak form last year, so I really want to turn it up a notch and aim to take off at least a minute off my time up Norton Summit. I'd also really like to beat a lot of my personal best up all the local climbs in Adelaide, but the reason I've set a specific time for Norton Summit is because that is the climb that I frequent the most. My next goal is more endurance based, and that is to complete a 24-hour time trial. I don't really have a goal in terms of distance for this ride, just because I've never done a 24-hour ride before, so I don't really have a point of reference. But I guess I would kind of be aiming for between 400 to 500 kilometers. I'm not really sure when I'm going to do this ride. Potentially towards the end of summer, when it's not too hot but it's not too cold yet, so we'll just have to wait and see for that one. My next goal is based on completing some local rides here in Adelaide. So there is this group called Super Elliots, and every Saturday morning they ride up Norton Summit and they do a loop to Lobeful and back to Adelaide. And one of my goals is to complete that ride without getting dropped too hard. I would also like to complete Krusty's ride, which is a fast 200-kilometer ride to Victor Harbour and back. It happens every Christmas Eve, and yeah, I would really like to be able to, even just to keep up on the way to Victor Harbour. Apparently most people get dropped on the way back to Adelaide, so if I can manage that, then I would be pretty happy. In terms of total distance and climbing for the year, I'm not really too concerned with the quantity I do, now more so with the quality of the training that I do on the bike. Last year I did over 12,000 kilometers with 170,000 meters of elevation, and I don't really have a goal to do any more than that. Like, I'm quite happy to maintain that same distance and climbing. I just really want to make sure that the kilometers I do are quality and not just junk kilometers. So yeah, I'd probably just be aiming to maintain that, if anything, which is roughly 200 to 250 kilometers a week. And for someone who has a job and works most days, I think that's pretty substantial. My final goal, and I'm still not 100% sure on this one, and I've been thinking about it for a long time, and it's to start racing. Anthony and a few other people I know have been telling me for a while now that I should just give it a shot. So I'm thinking I might just give it a try and see whether I enjoy it or not. Unfortunately, to get a race license in Adelaide is quite expensive, so it kind of puts me off a bit, but who knows? We'll just have to wait and see. So that's pretty much it for this video. If you managed to sit through all of that dribble, I do congratulate you, and thank you for watching and supporting my channel. I'm really excited to do a little bit more cycling content on my channel this year, and yeah, just really happy to focus on what I'm really passionate about at the moment. So yeah, if you have any video suggestions or anything you want to see, just let me know in the comment section below. And yeah, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys next video.